All right, thank you very much, Veli, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half of games for the day. We're getting nice prepared to jump into Disrupt versus Xset now. I think the analysis desk rounded out their points incredibly well there, Stokes, as we'll toss things over to you and their discussion about how this match is going to go, and that it's not very easy to tell. Xset obviously doesn't come into things with a great reputation off of stage one, but they've changed to a new player. However, at the same time, while Disrupt had a pretty promising start in stage one themselves, got off to a bumpy start yesterday versus TSM. How's that all going to play into today?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point to start us off, is that this is not clean cut. This is not black and white in between these two teams. There's a lot of new things to really take into account when talking about them. Obviously, Disrupt now having Easily as a coach, that could change up a lot of things, and I think we saw that happen yesterday, especially with how DP Fire was playing. Actually, a very positive experience for him with Disrupt yesterday, ended up with a 1.34, alongside J90 as well. The team actually showing some signs of life, but just not there yet. And right across the fence, obviously, Xset actually sitting in very similar straits, with Razor coming in, as well as Sam Jarvis and Drew Spark coming into play in the coaching as well as analyst roles. Just more structure around these teams now that could present us a lot of different, looks that we have not seen before with these rosters.
Yeah, continuing the discussion on the individual performances yesterday from Disrupt, Iconic was more so the main thing that was missing from this team, but you could argue almost that that's an interesting factor here for Disrupt, because we saw this to some extent back in stage one as well, where Iconic would be on for some games, off for others, but you would be seeing some of the other members of this team step up from time to time in order to make up for that. So I'm not too certain if Iconic's individual performance is going to play into the team's success or failure as heavily as it was in the last stage, because now we've already seen from game day number one that we've got DP Fire able to pick things up once again. J90 is still firing off on all cylinders. It's looking good. Whereas for Xset, unfortunately, I just really can't say the same thing about it. And I'm uncertain if Razor is going to be the immediate fix for all of these issues. Looking at the CL performance, there were some questions of consistency there for me. Obviously, I don't want to put too much judgment on the guy before he's even played a game here in Pro League, but I very much have to wait and see before I can give a good opinion about how his performance is possibly going to bolster the Xset roster here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Xset squad has nowhere to go except up here. I mean, obviously replacing Butters with Razor. Looking through actually kind of the discography of those games with Butters in, actually looking back through them, Xset's best game with Butters, at least for Butters' performances, was up against Disrupt. But sadly, that game, if you guys remember it, did not go too well. It ended up being a 7-3 on Villa for Disrupt. But I kind of want to shift gears back to Disrupt for just a second here, John, because I think there's a big thing that we didn't really get to discuss too much just yet, and that's Shuttle and how he was missing from the puzzle yesterday. Had a 0.34 rating, and that's not something that we ever really got to say about him inside of stage one, where we saw him with an average of a 1.16 rating. So it's just one of those things where somebody that we saw be so explosive inside of stage one, especially surrounding some of his plays, essentially with operators like Buck and things along those lines, having something missing like that from your arsenal is a really big deal.
Aside from Shuttle, we'd like to know from you guys at home, which Challenger League star is going to make a splash in the NAL today? Will it be DP Fire, the new man on the roster for Disrupt, or Razor stepping things up for Xset? Be sure to let us know on one of our social channels, either here in the Twitch chat or, of course, over on our Twitter, more notably at R6 Esports NA. Veli will have the results, and whether you guys were right or not, a little bit later on the analysis desk. With that question out of the way, that we should be just a few moments away from getting the match started. I think we're waiting on 1 to 2 more players to join up, and then things should be smooth and ready to go with our map, which we can now start talking a little bit more about here as well. Villa is where we're going to be heading to, with Xset getting the start on defense. What do we think of this map going into this series, Stokes?
Well, it's a very, very big question mark for me, because looking back through a lot of these different maps for these teams, and specifically Xset as of right now, we see that they've been able to play it twice in recent history, and both of them have been losses. Actually, up against Disrupt as well as Beast Coast. Xset just really doesn't have the best track record across all maps right now, so it's really kind of hard to get a feeling of what they actually have that's, positive for them. Well, they take a team, then we're like, oh, this is Xset's map, they're more than likely going to win this. That doesn't exist right now, sadly speaking, but obviously with roster changes and a new coach in, along with an analyst, they might be able to change that in the future, and that could start right now with this Villa.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice when you look at Disrupt's record on it. Obviously, Disrupt has already taken down Xset on this very map back in stage 1. I think the analysis desk touched on that for a moment. But what's also interesting is if you look at specifically just Disrupt's record, they also took a fairly heavy loss on this map the only other time they played it on the last stage, and that was against Mirage, where they were only able to negotiate themselves a solid 2 to 3 rounds over the course of that. So there's definitely some weaknesses on this map for Disrupt. Obviously, I didn't have the time to go back and watch that VOD to see what those were, but it's a curious question to see if maybe Xset was able to dig into some of that by checking out the VOD themselves, and could be part of the reason why this map has been picked up, because they think they can abuse some of those mistakes and come back for the revenge tour win against Disrupt here.
Yeah, you know, peering into that match, especially up against Mirage and just what that team had inside of stage 1 with Hot and Cold, you would assume that it was the Hot and Cold show, but that's actually not what it was. It was actually Nyx and Loading who had the largest impact for Mirage inside of that, and Nyx being at the top of that heap isn't something that it happens too often, and that's okay. Obviously, running that entry and mostly getting traded out in certain scenarios, but what that tells you is Nyx was just extremely potent on that entry game. They couldn't deal with that aggression off rip. So that's something that maybe Xset could possibly expose, unless obviously that hole's already been patched.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, here we go into the map. Villa, like we said, is going to be the battleground for this matchup. First ban already getting out of the way. It's the choice from Xset. They're going to remove Thatcher, as once again, he is still our, unfortunately, popular ban here in the league, as he's going to be removed one more. Disrupt gets the next choice, and they will be taking out for our second attacker. Let's take a look here. It's going to be Hibana, as one hard breacher will also be removed from the pool.
Well, honestly, not a big shock there. And if you guys heard the match earlier on Villa, we're going to say some very similar things. Thatcher obviously banned out all the time. You guys know exactly why with those EMP grenades, but Hibana being removed for similar reasons as to why you would remove Ace. She's able to access walls from outside of the building or just at range in general, and it makes things a lot safer for you, especially if you're going for something like a study attack where you have to try and break up those walls in there. You don't necessarily want to try and run inside at risk of nitro cells and everything else that can possibly happen to you.
Valk is going to be our final ban coming out here alongside Wamai. Once again, following fairly normal trends here. Wamai is still a very powerful piece of utility to deal specifically with the attacker utility, such as the flash drain, as well as the chance to catch things like smoke grenades and as they've started to become a lot more popular. Again, Valkyrie as well gives a lot of freedom and, more importantly, intelligence to the defenders, and she's just very annoying to deal with as an attacker, especially in pro play right now for teams that know how to place those cameras in very tricky spots. So she's also getting banned out fairly often when compared to the other operators in our pool. That'll end the ban phase and take us into the first round here. We're going to be going right along with the meta picks as Xset's going to head right to trophy and stat. Well, actually, not so much the meta anymore, but going to be heading upstairs to trophy and statuary here for our first round.
Yeah, that's one thing about Villa, right? We've seen this site shift so many different times, and it really just feels as though it's really up to the team. We've seen people start living room, for Christ's sake. So,
yeah,
you know, starting trophy statuary isn't the biggest deal. I like the 6 pick coming in here because it, you know, tells Disrupt, hey, there might be somebody down low. You could possibly bait them to waste some time looking for somebody inside a kitchen or even all the way downstairs, because we know how potent Pulse can be on these multiple floored buildings. Either way, though, Xset going to be starting us out on defense if you guys haven't already figured that one out, and they're going to be bringing Lesion along for the ride, also Mute for the denial of the multitude of walls that they have to worry about in the site.
I am curious to see how much Xset is going to lean on the roam game here, given the individual-centric nature we've seen this team play towards in the past. It's not looking like it's going to be super heavy in that regard, considering the operator lineup, but regardless, we'll keep a close eye on that, specifically with the pick of the Lesion being brought in and adding a bit more freedom to the ability of their defenders to rotate around, whether it's inside the site or obviously a bit more creatively on that first floor and in the basement to give some possible early pick opportunities over to the squad. Save from that, though, bringing a lot of what you would generally expect to see on the defensive side for a setup on this site.
Well, Disrupt out and onto the field for the very first time here, and this means we actively have Razor's first round inside of Pro Play. We'll see how it goes now, as he will be playing the Maestro, so make sure to pay attention to that, guys. And obviously we also have some competition in between 2 ex-teammates from CL. Obviously DP Fire as well as Razor both coming from Livid, so lots of action to be had inside of this matchup.
Going to be a slow start here for the most part here. Xset is putting some active aggression against specifically the laundry push, although things not going to work out too well in that regard, as Drip is going to be lost from the exchange. Oh, J90 nearly getting Thomas, but never mind. Thomas striking back instead, taking out J90 and quickly evening us up down to a 4v4 after Drip was dispatched.
Well, all these trades ensuing very early on here, but real map control given over by Xset, at least keeping things equal. And that's the good news, as well as they'll be able to hold on to the basement for a while longer here. Mostly have this centralized around kitchen, just mostly trying to delay time. But as we get an update on the situation down low, DP Fire and the rest of DG have actually taken over the area. It seems as though the Legion of Creators has actually scampered on by and actually made his way back upstairs. Thomas is still in the south side of the building, though, currently going up main. So there is going to be able to work his way back into sight and or cut off something that Disrupt is doing over towards red. But as we are seeing what more of the game plan is from them, this is mostly centralized around Master, fairly straightforward as of right now.
Filthy with a late deployable barricade going out there to support the position of Razor, hopefully allowing him to play a little bit further here to the inside of Astro. As the time continues to get lower, DP with a slight lineup for only a split second there, but not able to execute upon it as much as he certainly would have liked. Either way, it's a fine, then a start. Now, as you can see, Disrupt are working on trying to negotiate themselves upstairs to begin pushing into the site. This will probably be the hardest part of the execute for them. As you can see, not a whole lot of presence on the inside of the master bedroom. In fact, it's just Retro currently here. More than likely, we will see Disrupt try to move 1 to 2 players back there, but it's not looking like that's happening very quickly. There you go. You can start to see a little bit of that extra pressure. One more on the rappel towards Astro against Razor. That sets him back behind the wall. Around the rotate here, Iconic gonna finally try to push up the staircase, but no, can't easily deal with the camera sitting in the corner. He's gonna have to try and push forward, but once again, will be stunted, sent in a different direction. We're now DP Fire and Iconic gonna be able to pick things up, but it's never gonna stop, it seems. All down to Thomas now in a 1v4 with 18 seconds left. Disrupt have completed the transition and have nearly full control over the second floor now.
Such a great job from Disrupt to execute their way straight through Astronomy. Iconic spearheading his way to the back, clearing that out, and eventually working their way into a plant attempt. Yes, they do give up Master in the process, but it was all part of the plan at the end of the day to simply shift Xset out of Trophy and up attempting to put the case down. Fantastic job by them, but now it's up to Xset to try and shift gears here and see what they can possibly bring to Disrupt. We saw the opening kill go Xset's way, or at least Disrupt's way, actually, as Drip was taken down early on, but Xset eventually able to find a refrag. And we sit at a 4v4 for a while. Obviously, Disrupt simply roaming around down low, starting to set up their utility, breaking up the floor, getting some walls open, and things along those lines. Xset truthfully only denying ace with impacts from the Legion of Creators. Past that, not too much denial, and that's really where the rubber hit the road for Disrupt. They were able to get a lot of traction out of that situation, end up taking over Astronomy and putting that case down like we were talking about previously.
I like how denial kind of extended to the first floor hold as well, and more speaking of denying time more than anything else, there is Xset gave up those extended positions specifically inside of tarps and the kitchen relatively early on after losing that 1-to-1 exchange there and then having to fall back afterwards. Definitely was some play potential for them to try and get a tad more aggressive and slow down the overall push from Disrupt there. But they made the conservative choice, tried to play into the site, and as we see, that clearly did not work out. Disrupt had great utility, clear some of the more hard lock positions like an Astro there for Razor, got dealt with really no trouble at all for Disrupt, and then they were able to sweep their way onto the site with the full control of that room, combined obviously with the previous control they had over towards master bedroom.
All right, well, Xset back into business now, but this time downstairs inside of kitchen. Let's see if the pulse made it through. It did indeed. Thomas going to be bringing that in unison with a lot of info denial. Obviously, Mute and Mozzie good for that. Creators also coming along for the ride with the Vigil. Razor just bringing the smoke. One of the most necessary operators for the defense, but this looks to be a pretty quick round here for DG. DP Fire already working his way up to the pantry door. Is anyone seemingly aware? This door does not have a single cam on it, anything at all. Takes down the player. Tetris knows one's playing shield, but DP Fire will simply get away from this. He's already gotten the bag. He's got the opening frag, and that's all they necessarily needed to start this off.
The free pick from Disrupt. No chance for an exchange coming in here anytime soon either from Xset. They're way too slow to react to that. The player that's sitting on the corner behind the deployable shield doesn't even really want to re-peek it from the looks of things there, so not going to give the attackers a chance for that second entry. That is until right now, of course, where now Iconic peeks directly into Disrupt there, giving Iconic the next pick. Iconic, to be fair, nearly killing himself on the retreater, gets trapped behind a smoke grenade, but will be able to just barely make it out at sub 25. Rest of the team probably going to have to do a bit more of the aggressive work here now, as unfortunately he can only take a single bullet before going down. Drip will begin the responses here for Xset, as he's finally going to be able to pick up that trade kill onto DP Fire, who got the opening kill for Disrupt inside of this round. Save from that, though, everything's going a bit quiet. Retro certainly looking for an opening opportunity, and he nearly gets it. Drip now down to 25 as well, but Retro not reacting too heavily to that. Creators instead from Xset will get the next frag.
Well, 3v3 now for Xset as they're able to dig themselves out of this hole. It was looking dire quite early on here, but, well, Disrupt still indeed have an opportunity. Things have been equalized. They have not gone awry just as of yet, although Iconic very low on HP. We've been really enjoying his gameplay so far throughout this map. It seems like this role's very, very comfortable for him on this Ayana. Already with 3 frags, and J9, speaking of frags, it's impacts out and Drip down inside of Kitchen. Xset on red alert as of right now. Obviously, Disrupt no insight as to what's happened.
I don't believe J9 had any idea that he just down Drip right there. Possibility that he might have seen it, but could have been a trick of the eye for me, seeing the silhouettes and thinking that he might have gone into the open. Either way, though, it's not looking like anyone on Xset is going to make an attempt to try and retrieve Drip, so as long as that remains unchanged, he will die at some point in the next 20 seconds or so here when that timer runs out. Around his little health icon. Save from that, Disrupt still taking their time about things with 15 seconds left. They know they've got to be a bit careful. There's the finishing blow going on to one of their players, but immediately a response is here from Xset. Creators and Razor are holding on, taking this to the null timer. 3 seconds left. Here's the plant attempt, and it'll more than likely be the only one they get. Iconic oversteps. He goes down. That planter should go down onto the floor, but is there any time for him to react? Yes, there is. He gets the first and the second, and Shuttle clutches out the 1v2.
Whoa! Shuttle was missing yesterday, but clearly not today. It's all business now inside of Kitchen. Shuttle with a huge 1 versus 2. Had 0 right, winning that round there. But either way, Disrupt up 2-0 now after a very low timed execute. Obviously did not have the insight into having down Drip inside of Kitchen, and that's why they stave off until the very last moment to actually hit the site. But it still works out for them, although Iconic does have to swing and try and combat the angles going on inside of Dining and everything else. Ends up getting taken down by that off angle that we saw in Tarps from the SMG-11, but it really didn't matter. It just seemingly unstoppable Disrupt and more or less an unstoppable Shuttle in that moment. But a great round from them. I really like what Disrupt has done with this map so far. We saw the early aggression come out from DP Fire, pressuring inside of Kitchen very early on, able to take down the mute player and then eventually rotate out. Obviously, it gets equalized down the line into a 3v3, but it just seems like Disrupt is always starting off a leg up.
Really impressive part of that clutch for Shuttle. He had virtually 0 information in the 1v2 as well. He has to get that case down on the ground. The only information he's going to have are the footsteps of his opponents approaching him. Unless there was preset drones feeding him info, which I don't believe there were, then yeah, he had to do that purely just on his own reaction pace. And what an impressive clutch that was there. Is unfortunately Iconic, like I said, overstepped a bit and went down before either of the remaining Xset players moved from their position. So he did not get a lot for himself. That was all on Shuttle. Really crazy stuff there to come out on top of that 1v2. A well-deserved 2-0 lead now in the pocket for Disrupt. We'll see if they can push it even further than that as Xset coming up with another defense right here. And a bit of aggression again from Drip. We could see that early fight, but looks like Iconic is dodging that to head up towards the connector window instead. So no collision just as of yet.
You never know what the enemy is. They could be rappelling on the wall right next to you. But luckily enough, all of that's going to be concrete except for the window inside of Mudroom. So Drip, not really too concerned with what's going on outside as of right now. And for Disrupt, we're back to the basics. We're in the first minute here. Not too much aggression happening this time around as well. Disrupt has already played that card, and it happened very, very recently. So more than likely going to slow things down, continue to mess with this pacing, keep Xset on their toes. And speaking of which, Filthy has been taken down low.
Oh,
and
no.
Creators reactivated the laser gates, so he'll lose an impact as well. Fire actually not knowing that he's down Filthy on red. They'll more than likely clean him up here in a moment after they find the blood trail, or might actually have Razor come to the rescue.
Razor with a big bait on his corpse right now here. Going to see if they can at minimum guarantee a trade. DP Fire well aware of that. You could tell from his playstyle right now. He's not too eager on trying to push forward. As long as they make sure no one gets access to that main red stairs access, it's more than likely that Filthy's just going to bleed out on the timer here, and they'll gain the same benefit either way compared to if they try to aggress and get that pick. There's a good chance Razor could kill 1 or 2 of them in the process. So there you go. Filthy's just going to expire due to the timer running out on his revive. And either way, Disrupt will hold the 5v4 yet again. DP Fire just taking a breather for himself. He's at a little bit of low HP. Also coming down the last minute here, so Disrupt focused a little bit more on the site take, as they still have to get a good amount of control upstairs, specifically leading into that central hallway. Still a couple paces away from being ready to move towards that, so need to put a lot of focus on that as we enter the final minute. J9O even going outside to re-entry now towards a different spot in the art studio to begin getting some pressure on the other side of the map.
Well, Disrupt. Anything set up now. Still have to worry about main stairs. You can obviously see holding on to top red as well as, I believe, one inside of 90. Can't necessarily see what Disrupt has with that other member there. As, yeah, actually, DB Fire will be holding on to 90, holding that bar door, making sure nothing too terrible can happen to them. And speaking of terrible things, Drip gets taken down by Iconic top main as Razor begins to rotate around. He's actually getting knocked down by an air jab all the way back down red stairs. And, yeah, I would probably back off from that as well. Very risky play now for Razor, and well, Iconic actually going to get taken down as he goes for a risky swing over towards the plane's door from Study, but now Disrupt bullying their way through the bar door. Retro starts putting this plant down, and he'll stick it. Shuttle will get taken down in the process, but it's still a 3v2. J9 with the overwatch, he'll make sure this plant goes down, and now it's up to the last two Xset members to try and clutch this up.
Raiders really the only one standing in the way at the moment, it seems, of Disrupt's aggression. Razor trying to get in the way of it as well, but he lost his only teammate, and Retro gets both of those. Let's see this on the replay if we can. A quick flick over to the right. It's a little bit slower than I thought it'd be, but either way, some good stuff from Retro there to find a quick 2-kill in order to finish off the round there, putting Disrupt even further ahead of Xset now at 3-0.
I did not realize that Easley was the coach for the Nets, because these guys are just shooting. This is ridiculous right now. Some insane stuff happening for Disrupt, but I mean, honestly, I'm very, very happy for these guys. They're all on the same page. It seems like they have an answer for everything as of right now. Like, these rounds are actually getting dwindled down. This isn't like a 5-0 wipe every single time, or, you know, Disrupt just running away with it in the first minute and a half, and then all of a sudden something magical happens, right? Disrupt obviously are having to take this fight with Xset. Yeah, Xset have been able to trade things down, but especially inside of that last round, Disrupt are doing things on load time, and it's really, you know, on a knife's edge. You have to worry about the constant angles from multiple different areas, especially that vault player that could possibly have a nitro or something. There's just a lot of risk when it comes into doing something on such low time, because you don't necessarily know, unless obviously you have the count, what the defense has in those pockets.
Yeah, the time factor is the only thing where I'm getting a little bit worried for Disrupt here, as well as it does seem that Xset, if they play these situations a little better, might be able to abuse that timer down to a point where Disrupt really just can't make a play. But the opposite side of that argument is Disrupt have been so proficient on their entry game over these past 3 rounds that they don't even really seem to care too much about the timer, because they have just such a crazy win rate when it comes to any individual 1v1 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I feel like they're undefeated as of right now. It really feels like every single Disrupt member simply cannot lose when they're on the screen. But as for Xset, obviously still showing signs of life here, mostly from creators, but across the board. This is their opportunity now to try and adapt and overcome to the offense of Disrupt. They've seen this 3 times in a row now, obviously on different sites, but more than likely have some semblance of the adaptability, or adaptations, excuse me, that they need to make. Xset, though, going to be on an extended hold over towards AVG. Thomas currently manning top stairs. Something we've actually seen happen quite a few times with a couple of different teams across the history of Villa, just simply trying to hold Disrupt at the door here, and that door being Study Balcony.
Raiders looking to inch himself out here. To be fair, he's been really good playing from these angles. We saw him do it from inside of the gun vault in the last round and absolutely decimated Iconic when he was the first one to try and peek through. But was he going to be able to do this again with aggression being the key? Unfortunately not. This time it's DP Fire that takes the first step forward. Gets double peeked by 2 different members of Xset. One going to get traded out now as Thomas falters. Drip was also involved in that fight, and apparently Creators is now as well, as he swings around one of the breaches against the wall. Not to any committed fight though. J9O also a little bit timid right now due to his low HP, but he'll have some support from the Study doorway, so it's not to say that J9O can't get aggressive whatsoever here. Creators realizes he might have bitten off a bit more than he can chew with his own aggression, so he's going to start to fall back and play to that very same gun vault angle that he was before. In fact, he would take it a step further, rotate all the way over here to the inside of Billiards. Reminder, this is not the site of play. He needs to eventually fall back from this and get to the site, or hopefully go down to a trade. Not going to happen this time, though. He goes down with nothing to show for it. J9O being his killer.
Oh, well, Drip is going to go unaccounted for, and you can't necessarily blame them as he shifts towards top main, and they kind of have a back and forth between space control here. J9 walking into the actual Plains room, eventually working his way through Vault and getting that frag, but Drip playing main stairs,
No
two
way.
kills now. Can he get the third? He cannot. Iconic shuts it up with the ARX, and now we're down to the 2v2. Every single time, John, it doesn't matter what round it is, we somehow find our way to equal man count. 30 seconds remain. Disrupt actually with some utility still to utilize, especially these Selma charges that could be quite useful, but obviously going to be quite risky. Selma charge out. Is Razor going to give up his positioning? He is not going to give it up. This is a huge play right now. Iconic's taking damage as well from some toxic smoke.
Why would you expect there to be a Montaigne on the inside of walk-in at 10 seconds left? It's perfectly played from Razor. Retro goes down. Iconic, not really with much play potential here, unfortunately. As you can see, doesn't even have the case control. Time's going to run out in a moment anyway. To be fair to him, he does end up peeking it, tries to go for something, but is ultimately just going to falter. A very nice one round there due to some great time wasting coming out from Drip in the mid-round over by the Bookcase 90 angle, along with a great finishing play there for the new member on the team, Razors, inside of Bookcase to really seal the deal on the 2v2.
That was a fantastic round there by Xset. I really like what I saw. And also, just to update you guys, we are on a timeout for Disrupt. We'll get to that here in a second because I'm happy that that's happening as well. But Xset, fantastic hold over in the AVG area, but mostly capped off by what Drip was able to produce on main stairs. Xset was starting to lose map control inside of the actual area that they were attempting to hold on to, but obviously Drip coming in at the time that he did, Disrupt didn't have anything for Bookshelf. They had no idea that he was there. He's able to get the initial kill inside of Study. Disrupt already have members inside of the bar area, so they try to pressure straight out, and it doesn't work out for them. They immediately get taken down. Obviously, the trade ensues, but he deals quite a bit of damage to Iconic as well, which later, helped in that inside of the 2v2 because of the toxic smoke. Now, past that, the timeout for Disrupt, huge here, and I've seen this talked about quite a bit on Twitter, and I'm really happy that we're starting to see more of the timeouts being used at pivotal moments like this, because what this presents is Xset have actually solved the riddle of Disrupt's offenses, right? They've had a successful one, so what does Easily do? He calls a timeout. He's icing them. He wants to make adjustments. He wants to talk to the team. What changed inside of this round? What happened? What are you feeling? What was the thing that you guys thought went wrong? Okay, let's change this and see if this works instead. That's just a great coach straight out the box.
Biggest problem I'm going to see for Disrupt and trying to discuss any changes to the strategy is going to be they can't, in my opinion at least, really try and slow things down here at all. They're already playing it very close to the timer, and as a result of that, we see that last round happen where they're able to abuse that on Xset's side and really run it down to a point where they don't have the appropriate time needed to get the info in sight, clear out any weird positions like we had from Razors there, and just do the due diligence before you execute. So now it's up to Disrupt. Do we want to try and speed things up while attempting to make sure that mistakes like what happened with Drip don't occur again, or do we just play more carefully and being very cognizant to make sure we don't use the extra time in doing that?
Excuse me, I was trying to hack up a lung there for just a second, but
I heard the tapping. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah, I had to make sure I was still alive and breathing. My heart's beating. We're good to go. So either way,
water drink. My bad.
Man, don't you hate it when you drink water and it just tries to kill you for some reason? I don't get how that happens. Like, it's like 70% of our body or something like that. Either way, though, Xset going to be headed back towards Kitchen. This is the site that we saw before where, well, it didn't start off too hot for them. That's where we saw DP Fire immediately head for Pantry from the basement and find the initial pick onto the mute player. Don't necessarily know if it was Filthy the last time around, but more than likely was. I don't believe we're going to see too much of a switch up here from Xset, all except for possibly the Mira coming into play, but that's neither here nor there. Disrupt going to be starting on the south side of the building and pushing through for this clear, so some semblance of the last round, but obviously not attacking the same site.
I'm surprised we got DP Fire leading the charge once again. He's been that very much go-to opening fragger here for Disrupt and was doing a fantastic job of it within the first couple rounds. Obviously, this last one thing's got a little bit bumpier for Disrupt, so he's gone a bit quieter since then, but hey, only one round away. Time to see if he can pick up the pace yet again here. It's not just him moving forward. He's got J90 with him in the area. Iconic also nearby. Seems though Iconic more on utility duty more than anything at this point. He's probably supporting from that connector window with the Twitch drones. Either way, though, teams continuing to move around around. Razor looking to cause problems from downstairs on his roam, and Craters, as well, looking to cause some problems on the more direct take here with that hatch drop, although goes down towards it a little bit earlier as he's going to fall back closer to the site to avoid getting peeked from the window. DP fire strikes again, though. There's that opening kill from him that we have been talking about occurring in the previous rounds. This time he finds Drip and takes him out so far with no exchange.
Oh, this is so well done right now. Disrupt, measure twice, cut once. The drone plays coming out, the info for the upstairs area. Able to find Drip as well off of that and end up taking him down. So Disrupt all of a sudden with top control here and very abusable as well, as obviously plenty of soft destruction to bring to the table as Creators will pick up at least one. And well, what we've been talking about throughout this round rears its ugly head again. We're down to the last minute and it's equal man count.
A big part of the reason why Disrupt more than likely have to play some of these peaks so slowly, because Creators is just such a pain in the butt to deal with here. And we've seen it in Gun Vault, we see it here now in the Laundry Peak. He is primed and ready to go and has had some smooth headshots, 2 of which we've caught on camera, but there's probably been a few more besides that as well. Some great positioning and lineups coming out from Creators here today, and it is definitely making the impact necessary for Xset to stay in this competition right now, despite the deficit they're currently dealing with. Things are looking all right for them as we enter the final 30 seconds. Obviously have to be cautious of this final scramble onto the site that's going to be occurring, but Disrupt resorting down now, dropping into Laundry here. Retro using all 3 of the Selmas to open up a pathway into the site. Will that be enough for the team to swing out, though? We'll be finding out soon here as the execute has to begin with 20 seconds left.
Well, Creator's been found behind Tetris. He could be in some trouble here, and Retro knows the lineup. The smokes go off. This could be a plant attempt as of right now. The Nitro goes off early as well. The spam through China Wall doesn't find much. Thomas still trying to combat. They're making every attempt possible to stop this plant. Thomas finding some space, but he's the lone soldier. He'll get one. There's vertical play to worry about as well, but it doesn't matter because DP fires here with the G36C, and he'll take him down instead. Disrupt switching gears and blowing past Xset.
A great recovery there from Disrupt after the unfortunate loss round, quickly regaining control of that early round. And as we saw, at least with the early position from Creators, really disallowing any of the plans from Xset's roam game to come into fruition there. Creators forced down into a first floor position very early on, still able to leverage himself the opening kill, to be fair, as that impact we were talking about before is still ringing through. But unfortunately, once again, just didn't see that from the rest of the squad here. So Disrupt, with a very small angle of attack as well, able to swing themselves in pretty much entirely through Laundry and probably a little bit of that vertical pressure as well in order to get control over the site and negotiate themselves a 4th round. We're going to be heading up to AVG for the final defense on Xset.
Oh, well, they're not going to be too happy about that 6-pick. Iconic ends up 6-picking Sledge. He was going through the carousel trying to decide, I'm assuming, which site that they were going to go to, and they probably thought they were going to go back to Kitchen or something like that, and they wanted a little bit more soft destruction just for that vertical play, but didn't end up getting that. So, obviously still have the grenades that Yana has, but obviously not the same amount of intel gathering. We'll see how that works for Disrupt this time around as well. They have plenty of utility to be able to burn out ADSs and whatever have you with, and obviously Sledge, still very useful in other regards, whether it be dealing with those barricades or whatever else. Still a very solid fragger.
All right, so once again, you're going to see that Swiss cheese in the middle of the site here to give Xset a greater play capability to work around, especially because Disrupt has been favoring putting the pressure onto the map room itself, the aviation room, when comparing to games. Xset's been really good at putting a lot of the pressure on that 90 angle and kind of restricting access, so Disrupt has fallen back at least on one of these attacks here to going into AVG, or the aviation room, instead here for themselves. We'll see if that's going to hold true once again, or if they can get a little bit better control of that bookcase as well as top main stair area to open up a bar attack possibility as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities here for Disrupt to try and abuse. They're going to be coming from the north side this time, working up into Red Hall and obviously 90, the usual area that we expect, right at the top of red. And well, we'll have to see what Xset want to attempt to do about this. The last round that we saw this is where we saw Razor attempt to make his flank up red, and he ended up getting air jabbed back down. So far, Disrupt have been so solid at keeping these flanks locked up. No real opportunity for Xset to capitalize so far, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But some very forward positions right now for the Xset members, at least Razor as of late, in sight, as he'll be playing on the vault door with a deployable shield, but swinging towards bus door here. Might actually end up getting some pressure as Disrupt have already worked their way in.
going to be a very quiet opening to this round when compared to the others that we have played out so far. Xset has been no stranger to putting the pressure on Disrupt early on. It seems as though that's gone away almost entirely here in the final round of the half, though, as they'll be trying something newer, closer to the site, and much more focused on it as well, in hopes that they can play on that time delay and waste out all of Disrupt's execution time. Now, this does come at the negative effect of allowing Disrupt to set up a lot earlier, possibly removing that issue. That's not to say we don't have any aggression at all from Xset. You just saw it there over towards the main stair. Drip's position still going to cause some serious slowdown for Disrupt, and we're hoping, of course, that Iconic can get this lineup against Drip in that very same position that we were just talking about. But Drip very much aware of this, so not going to fall victim to Iconic's tricks. He'll get spotted out by the drone down below, but he knows that no one's actively on it, trying to see if he can abuse the fact that it's been left up at all. But here's going to be the issue. Iconic walks right up and absolutely dispatches of Drip when he's not looking.
Well, shouldn't have gave up the position there, King, but it happens. Don't worry. Ends up losing main stairs. Disrupt now with an opportunity to wrap around the site and start breaking up these walls. It's all up to Retro to start that process now. Still have enough denial here to help with certain things, like the impacts. Filthy going to tear one apart, but he immediately gets eviscerated right back. DP Fire so confident he's got the pistol out inside the site. Can he get the second? Oh, he can. Gun vault, an understatement of a shot with that 5-7 as Disrupt walk all over Xset in sight.
I appreciate that attitude where they for DP Fire. He's like, oh, my main gun's out of ammo. No, I'm the entry. I got responsibilities to do. Switches over to that secondary pistol and rolls right in, picking up 2 more kills for himself as well. Some really impressive stuff for the new pickup here on Disrupt, and it's certainly translating on the overall scoreboard. 5-1 at the end of the half. Disrupt only need 2 more rounds on their defense, not even a full rotation, in order to close out this map now.
If that isn't a Aim Labs sponsorship, I don't know what is. I'm just saying. So I mean, you guys should probably go download that. By the way, that was a really cool little panel talking about that. I immediately updated Aim Labs right after that. I want to try it and see what I can possibly get. You know what I mean? Especially for me, dude. Like I haven't really tried it this game in a little while, so I suck. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I want to see how bad I am, and then eventually see how good I can be. And you guys can too. So go download Aim Lab. It's free. You might as well get better at Rainbow Six. I mean, you're watching it.
80K grid shot gang represent.
Hey, there you go. Oh man, it's actually such a cool thing they were able to implement maps and everything else. Really awesome that Ubisoft ended up working with them for that, and lots of cool names attached to it actually, as well as Sua, the former analyst for G2, actually works on that project. So hats off to Sua for that and implementing the things that he did in that project. But either way, guys, we are at the halfway point here. Obviously switching sides as well. Disrupt is now on defense, and obviously Xset on offense. Going to be starting things off on the south side of the map, and as we get a look at their initial lineup here, they'll be using for Villa. We already see a big change up as well. Ace isn't being brought and Maverick is instead, and he's actually going to be the main hard breacher for them. They do not have a single piece of secondary hard breach across the board.
A lot of pressure from Xset, working their way in through that front door. Actually going to be sweeping through the first floor entirely from the looks of it, not focusing too much on that second floor hold, which will be unfortunate if that ends up being the case. Disrupt committed a lot of utility over towards Astro, including a full reinforcement of all 3 of the walls, not leaving a rotate. So all that utility is going to go to the waste if Xset chooses to try and execute here on a horizontal manner. Now, it seems that Disrupt have locked onto this even slightly in the move of bringing Shuttle down to the basement to watch out for that type of move. Obviously, Shuttle has a lot of traversal options from down in the basement, including a direct flank against this push from Xset if it continues to be the primary avenue that they use to push through this map. You still got players extended out from in the site as well, such as over here towards tarps that they're going to have to deal with. So Xset, a lot of problems to solve if they continue to move along this path, but it does seem that they're sticking to it for the time being.
Yeah, Shuttle simply needs to be as patient as a judge down low and more than likely get a flank off here. Obviously, if Xset ends up not droning out downstairs, as they're more than likely not going to have any insight besides that. Obviously, Razor could try and get some sort of info game going on down low with the Hollow, but it doesn't seem like they're too worried about that overall, at least from how they're currently standing at this minute 20 marker. Still have to worry about a couple of Disrupt members throughout the map that they seemingly haven't found yet. So, see how that ends up going down. But just remember, this is a kitchen defense, so multitudes of floors being handled, like Iconic upstairs inside of Master, and he actually might end up getting a frag here. There is absolutely no way that they are not going to clear out the top floor, actually just try and hop right in here.
Not to mention the fact that you still have the Astra angle. It's going to cause problems from the drop down that you can see into Red Hall here. I mean, we can see it. 2 members of Xset already going down here. Shuttle causing problems from the basement now as Creators is dispatched. Filthy trying to get the exchange, but it's Thomas dropping down from the looks of things from upstairs that actually gets the first kill. He's on an island, quite literally now, though, as he's alone here, but still thriving despite that factor. A 2-for-1 trade, not bad at the end of the day. Now the 2 remaining members of Xset need to pick up the rest of the slack, as it's come down to Retro, Shuttle, and DP Fire to pull off the rest of the defense. Only 20 seconds left, though. There's not going to be too much stress on these guys. They've already got Drip contained to the outskirts, of the red hallway. It's all about just locking down Filthy at this point, but Filthy gonna cause some problems. A beautiful headshot against Shuttle. He's got a plant opportunity here now as well, and I'm not sure if the other player from Disrupt on the inside can immediately stop it. There's a possibility of a swing from Retro, but he's got to be cautious of that. Drip has the angle onto him, takes out Retro, and now everything falls to the new player here. DP Fire in the 1v2.
DP Fire, his rookie stage up against Drip and Filthy, veterans of the game at this point. Doesn't seem like that long ago when we were talking about these two. Very similar stances. DP Fire starting to us off with a nice gunfight for Tetris. Worried about the player inside of Tars, but can't simply get the shots to land. Very nice heads-up play here from Xset to take control of Tetris and get that plant down. Seemed like they didn't really have a chance there going into those last 30 seconds.
Yeah,
but
it was a 3v5.
Yeah, and you know what the scariest thing was for me there is the fact that Thomas was able to get that play to go off inside of sight, but the rest of Xset wasn't there essentially to help him, right? Like they came later on, but everything that Thomas had already done, he had died for. So it was basically they reclaimed that area and then have to put a plant attempt down through Filthy's efforts. So, you know, it's a little discombobulated, but it works.
Yeah, it's very confusing to kind of dive through that. I didn't even see how Thomas even got to that position in the site.
Man, I'm pretty sure he just spawned there. I'll be honest with
like,
you.
He just is like, oh, Thomas is mid-site all of a sudden. So obviously that caused some confusion in the Disrupt camp as well. They're probably not losing too much sleep over the loss of that round, just because it was such an awkward one in the way that the moment-to-moment action ended up playing out. Either way, though, success for Xset at the beginning of the half is obviously good for them to build off of here. Lessens the overall gap between them and their opponents, serves a little confidence boost here. Obviously is going to change the status quo for Disrupt as well. They'll no longer be attempting that same site. They're heading upstairs now to Trophy and Statuary for their second attempt.
Well, staying on top of things, want to make sure Xset don't get to strike twice and try and shore up that lead anymore. Disrupt go towards Trophy and Statuary this time around with an extended hold for AVG. This time, though, not going to be looking anywhere similar to Xset at all. Iconic actually bringing the solid hardware all the way across into planes. He'll be rocking a Mira inside of there. We also have some laser gates spread throughout, as well as, get this, Castle, folks. Aruni and Castle paired together. It's something that we have seen before, and it presents a lot of different issues. Obviously, it's going to make people funnel if they don't want to end up clearing out that utility, but also with stacks like what we see on DP Fire's door here, you actually have to end up burning 2 pieces of utility to get that open, and that can mean even worse things if ADSs are around.
DP Fire once again trying to see if he can isolate out that drone that he heard a moment ago. Not going to find it so easily, though, apparently. Same issue for J9O, as we've got a lot of hard lock positions here for Disrupt trying to get those early kills, but from what we can see, Xset doing a great job on the counter intel, at least figuring out where these players are. Now, can they actually deal with them? That's the next question. A great nade against DP Fire doesn't fully kill him just as of yet, though, as he's still going to have 25 HP left. Is there another frag grenade? Yes, there is, sitting in Razor's inventory, so they could chuck another one, but no! DP Fire tries to get aggressive instead and gets a bit of damage off on a drip, but ultimately still goes down and will now lose that walk-in closet position. J9O has to decide now, does he stick around here or does he fall back? He'll make the fallback decision pretty quickly. Not
a bad decision there by DP Fire. He was more than likely dead no matter really what he did there. Just tries for the 1v1. That second frag grenade ended up cleaning up all of the ADSs in there. So he's on an island with literally zero help except the firearm by his side. So that's more than likely the decision that you're going to see. Either way, though, Xset start off with the lead and a nice clear of the master closet, but it seems as though they've got other plans. We see Thomas as well as one more rotating all the way over to the study side, but as we told you previously, there's a bunch of people over here, and I don't think that Xset are aware.
We're going to figure that out in just a moment.
They have no idea.
With the big swing, starts us off well for Disrupt, but Creators does manage to take out Shuttle's support. That's Iconic going down again. So Shuttle Now stuck between a rock and a hard place here. It does seem as though Xset are being a little bit more cautious about how they tried to handle the bar position player. Shuttle already taking down one of them, and the fact that Creators is still injured from the fight versus Iconic. Filthy definitely wants to be the aggressor if at all possible. Shuttle, as we can see, not dealing with this too well either. He's been stunned out from behind the bar spot. It seems as though Xset are going to ignore him, though. They know the time is low. They know they need to focus on the attack. This is a big risk from Xset. Now they need to commit someone to a near permanent flank watch, because eventually Shuttle is going to try and swing from his position here. We can see Xset still can't even work their way into the site. That's until Drip decides to do it himself, however, pushing forward, knocking out Shuttle, dealing with that flank issue, and bringing the Disrupt roster down to 2. J90 also tries to swing, and apparently, as does Retro, but they all fall to Xset, who clean up once again with a second attacking round.
Okay, well, I mean, honestly, Disrupt had everything there to be able to stop Xset. Shuttle able to get the initial entry from Xset's entry into Study, but after that, we obviously see the trade onto Iconic. Eventually, Xset just completely ignores Shuttle, which in that moment might have been kind of a risque thing, but they still had air jabs on top of them. I don't necessarily think we saw Filthy put one there, but Shuttle still respected it, and he ended up going to other areas of the map. He gets taken down, and then it's simply, I believe at that moment in time, a 4v2 onto site. Fantastic plant attempt from Xset as well, but it was really the Fragmite that drove it all home. Drip with a triple kill inside of that one.
So some great effort once again coming in from Xset, specifically in the late round execute. Once again, a situation where they look like they are completely beat out of the round with no opportunity to go for the actual final play, but apparently we are wrong about that. Disrupt give up multiple kills. Xset turning around that 1v1 duel issue that we were seeing be prevalent on their own defensive half before, and now Disrupt, at least in that last round right there, struggling with it, unable to close out any of those important gunfights to try to go for the win and secure what would have been the penultimate point for Disrupt. Now, Xset only 2 rounds away from potentially tying us up. We're going to go over towards an AVG defense for Disrupt as they continue to move around the sites looking for one that will finally work for them.
Listen, this is not going to be the day that we make Chonka a meta thing, okay, guys? You guys need to all stop. We've been taught. Listen, it's been the same for 6 years, okay? There's things inside of Rainbow Six that you can't touch.
Not the only team that used him on this site today either.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. We've seen Chonka twice today. We saw TSM use him. Wait, did we see Chonka on Villa as well?
Yeah, there was both times Villa. I think they were both on this site too.
Very interesting. Well, I love that we're actually seeing him now, because when they released him initially with this update, I always thought he would work extremely well with Smoke, and the way that they're able to actually just hold off 2 different areas at the same time. You can focus your utility on one sole thing instead of like where Smoke used to run into the option or the issue of, okay, they're attacking from 2 different areas. We have to worry about them at the same time. I'm probably going to burn my stuff early, just try and hold them back, and maybe we can deal some damage or something like that. But now they have so much utility with the radius of Chonka now and everything else, as well as the time being extended on those. It's just much more useful for the team overall and a lot easier to work in. We're not going to see the LMG, unluckily enough, but we will have some good Russian SMG-11 play, or excuse me, SMG play.
A lot of early control already going over towards Xset, specifically in that mid part of the map. You can already see one of their outlines directly on the 90 hallway, and he more than likely is not going to be alone that early on as well here. Xset, with the early control, can now start to shift over here into the study portion of the map as well, begin to take control there, since they're already primed to push down the hallway. If they are able to get top stair control and pinch from both sides, there's not really a whole lot that Disrupt are going to be able to do to stop it from the inside of bars, save for the position that Iconic's playing from right now, and inside of Gunvault. Those will really only be the 2 safe harbors at that point inside the room itself. Xset getting those final touches figured out here. We're going to see the Yana clone work her way in, but okay. Iconic as well with a nice find here. Thomas tries to swing a little bit in towards the inside of Study and pays the price. He's going to go down outright. No damage returned. Shuttle also trying to get a Nitro Cell kill off there, but that's from what you guys can see. No success.
This delay right now from Disrupt is truly insane, and if this continues to go on, this is more than likely just going to be a Disrupt round based off of the utility alone. J9 going to get a nice pickup as well, leading us to a 5v, make it 2 after a recent pickup onto Filthy from DP Fire, and oh well, looking like all she wrote as the flawless round pops up for DG. They are just overwhelming right now on Villa, and some nice ears on the head of Shuttle.
Yeah, once again, the off-site player kind of just left out and about there for Disrupt. Never really dealt with by Xset going, except to, in those final moments there where they don't really have a choice and that player's actively contesting them. That's having a kind of mixed results with regards to whether it's working or not working for Xset. Obviously, we saw the one where Shuttle was left on the inside of Gunvault when they were attacking the trophy statuary room. They were able to work towards that, but this time, not so much the case as that player rotates back through the main stairs and causes some serious issues this time for the execute on Xset. Not only that, too, but the players in sight just finding multiple picks gives that greater capability for Disrupt to get even more aggressive at the end of the round and really just leave no hope alive for those remaining Xset players. A very understandable pause coming in here from Xset, as well, it is match point now for Disrupt, and they don't use it at this point. There's a very good chance they never will get to.
Yeah, that's one thing as a coach, right? You're never allowed to end a game with timeouts. That's one thing that my dad drilled into me ever since I started playing football at like the age of 5. He's like, if you waste timeouts, even going into halftime, you just suck at what you're doing, man. Don't waste timeouts. It's time for you to reset and talk to your team and fix the things that you need to do. So obviously, like what you said, could possibly be the last round for Xset to do something. They need to use this timeout. Jarvis needs to step in, talk to these guys, and see the adjustments that they can make. And honestly, Xset's offenses have not been the worst thing so far. Obviously, we had that one round that we kind of just chalked up to a little bit of a disjointed offense, but they end up getting the plant down and winning that round inside of Kitchen. They follow that up with yet another off the back of that, but finally we see Disrupt adjusting. And for me, what it seems like is Disrupt slowed down the pacing. They're not getting in Xset's face as early and as often, and that's leading Xset into this moment where they're trying to get things set up, but that's right where Disrupt are just driving that dagger right into their heart, starting to get those opening frags and letting them have it, per se.
So this could be a little bit of an interesting one for Disrupt now as they're heading down to Library for what very well could be their final defense. They're more than likely, based off of the way that the last round worked, I'm going to try and play this in a similar way. But the site, from what you guys can already tell, is going to be very, very different. I don't think you're going to be able to actively just outright deny any access to the room for as lengthy of an amount of time that Disrupt was able to do on the previous site. So a little bit more work, and more importantly, a little bit more of a spread on their defensive player count. Going to have to come out this time for Disrupt in order to adequately trying to lay out Xset and leave them with no time for an execute once again.
Yeah, but they're also not a stranger to that style of setup so far throughout their villa, because as we've seen, right, especially with their trophy statuary defenses, they really like playing the AVG side of the building, and that can be a really good thing or a really bad thing. But honestly, when it comes down to it, they've done such a bang-up job of utilizing these players that are on the roam or just, holding on to different portions of the building that why stop it now, especially when a site benefits so much from it, like Living Room. This top hold can more than likely win you the entire round if it goes off well.
So DP Fire on that very important front main stairs position here. Obviously not to defend the upstairs site, but he does serve as kind of the gatekeeper for the other two players on the inside of AVG itself. So very important that he stays alive, or at minimum is able to delay from this position for as long as possible, so that those other players to his left are not going to get contested also. Gonna obviously be in just a little bit of a drone mini game for some time until he gets actual pressure against him, but it does look like Xset are already starting to put their eyes, if not onto him, but in his general vicinity. You can see Filthy, for instance, just around the study area, and two more players also looking for information about working in the main door. They're gonna head towards Art Studio instead, though, while creators will just hold the main door angle, as the focus right now is definitely seeming to be on getting at minimum lobby control, and as somewhat of an extension, also dealing with DP Fire here.
Well, DP Fire will continue to hold on to main stairs. Very big piece here to the overarching puzzle of Disrupt setup, and usually the initial point of contact from the offense is, well, can possibly have some frags coming to him momentarily. It's the delay right now for DG. They do not want to give this up. One oversight from Xset, and they could lose it all. Oh, iconic shooting right over the head of someone inside a piano. Is it Creators that ends up going down? Yes. Drip will exchange it for DP Fire. Shuttle will pick up yet another one, though, at the top of main with a secondary shotgun from Mira. They're starting to rotate around the Xset members as well. Case control down top main. Xset currently aware of the situation as well, knows that the Mira is here. Shuttle gonna get lit up quite a lot, but Thomas, no frag grenades currently to capitalize. He can't see Shuttle as he rotates into the corner, almost gets yet another. It'll be a double for him, but DG spring to action. Retro takes down Filthy. Razor, the last remainder of Xset's hope.
No.
He'll take down one, he'll take down two. Razor, ice in the kid's veins, straight from CL.
Razor, what a performance there to come out with the clutch. I mean, that's a make or break peak right there. Doesn't hit that headshot nearly instantaneously. He dies and their team loses the round. Not to mention the terrible situation that Xset got put into in those final moments. They lose the case with about a minute and a half left on that main stair position, and Disrupt is fully aware of that. They create themselves basically a flashpoint from that moment onward where they have to try and focus entirely on getting that back, and it's so hard to do because Disrupt has like 2 to 3 different players committed to that position, despite what was lost in the trade as well there. Thomas also able to sneak through and take down at least one of the players on the inside of the AVG hold, somehow once again working his way behind enemy lines without being noticed by Disrupt. It's the second time that's happened for him in this game.
I'm trying to remember the last time that I went to a rave because it feels like I'm on drugs right now because Drip is just playing glass. I don't know what's happening here. Are you seeing this with your eyes?
Yeah,
are you seeing this? What is this? There's no other smokes. Okay, so here's a couple things, right? There's no other smokes to assist him. Last time that I checked, because I haven't played Glass in a light years, he has smokes for himself. That's really about it. I don't necessarily know what the setup is here. If this is going to be a rush and he's just going to try and hold like a cross through sight and just take down as many banana people as possible, I don't necessarily know.
There was a Warden pick from Disrupt in the last round, but I don't think it's a counter to that.
Yeah, but there's no hard breach, man.
Yeah,
what is happening?
Sense, so.
And by the way, just for this, just for some funsies, he 6 picked off an ace.
Interesting. Okay, so
I don't know what is happening, John. If I knew, I would tell you, but I don't.
We're gonna pay close attention to Drip and the rest of Xset here because there might be something interesting in the works. Aside from that, though, this is a fairly normal opener for them. Just working their way in on a south to north clear, dealing with any extended positions we may have from Disrupt, which again doesn't look like we've got too much of that. So the early game not going to be super difficult here for Xset, specifically when it comes to second floor control. Now we definitely have some players messing around, especially in the red stairs area for Disrupt. So as soon as they get past that middle point on the map, that's when things are going to get a lot more difficult for our attackers here.
Well, Xset working things quite easily so far. No early aggression from Disrupt, but they have a lot on deck to, well, show Xset some problems. Most notably, the Nitro cells down low match up with Retro on this Pulse. So far, Xset not really having any insight as to what the true setup is so far throughout the map. Just working the outer area, throughout this area, or at least right around the top of AVG. Still have to actually get in towards site. They will be able to hold on to the main hallway, splitting the map essentially in half. So that's good news as of right now. Thomas starting to push forward, but he is glaringly aware of what is going on inside of Astro. Will burn in ADS as the rest of Xset starts to push forward, but this will more than likely begin to be the area where Disrupt starts to fight back. We will see Iconic, though, give up Astronomy and immediately skimpers off to the basement.
Yeah, it drops down pretty quick there, not wanting to mess around with that second frag grenade. There is still a preset Nitro for Disrupt somewhere above Kitchen, so we'll see. Oh, I think that might have been it right there. We just saw blow up. So if that's the case, it's unfortunate as it doesn't do any damage whatsoever to Xset. A lot of planning for a whole lot of nothing, unfortunately, and that's also going to give this last minute over to Xset here in order to figure out the top-down angles. You can see Creators already working on that. They've got a sledge to assist a little bit there. Okay, never mind.
Thomas.
There's that Nitro as it takes out Creators this time around and finally gives us the first kill of the round at only 45 seconds left, not to mention the fact that Thomas also loses so much of his health from this. But now we're going to see the glass plate come out, and it immediately yields results. A push in through the smoke gets 1 kill from Drip over onto Retro. Is that enough to allow them to start pushing into the site, though, as it doesn't really seem like it off of a first glance?
Well, that's the problem. They have to funnel in here. They can't open any of these walls. It's going to be brute force as they try to stop it. Shuttle gets one. Iconic with the cross to take down Filthy. The Nitro cell play works. And Iconic from sight. Oh my. Disrupt all over Xset. Try and rep that, my friends. Disrupt. Take it 7-4 on Villa.
Definitely a few issues there with trying to close out the match, but ultimately a very successful day, in my opinion, still for Disrupt Gaming, as they're going to be able to take control of this one 7-4 in their favor, getting the full 3 points along with it. Their opponents unfortunately go home with no points in the league here today, as they're unable to make it to OT, where they would have been able to guarantee themselves at least 1 or 2 if they came out with the victory. Big congratulations to Disrupt, though, as they're going to rebound quite nicely after the 3-7 loss to TSM yesterday with their first win of the stage.
Yeah, and also a huge game there for DP Fire. We saw him find some success yesterday and just continues to add to what seems to be an amazing start to his young esports career. Very excited to see what he can do in the future.
That's definitely the case. DP Fire showing up there as well once again, especially when it came to the entry game with some really impressive openers, especially within those first couple of rounds there. But that'll do it for myself and Stokes for now. We're going to be back for the final game of the day as well, but we're going to go to a short break. When we return, we'll have Vela the Analyst to break down that match you just saw.